You're listening to the Heroes Power Hour presented by BlizzPro.com. Your hosts, Balrog fan Zexorus and DJ Tyrant. Welcome everyone to the Heroes Power Hour. This is a Heroes of the Storm podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com. I will get through this intro one day, but with me as always is our crew, Zexorus, Balrog fan, and P-Flame G. I am your host, DJ Tyrant. Let's go around and see how everyone's week has been. We're going to start with Zexorus this week. As always, his camera gets frozen during the intro. Let's see if it's working now. Zex. Uh-oh. Zex.
Hi, I'm right here. See, I forgot to subtly turn my mic on because I'm an idiot this time of night. So, yeah, no.
Zex, you're an idiot all times of the day.
Ooh, all right.
Ooh, well, savage.
I see how we're doing this already, are we?
Started. It's begun.
Is this what's hot on the street, Flame?
It is.
No, my week's been pretty good. Chen's OP. I honestly think he's top tier at this point. He's the Flame Breath talent one is the go-to talent. He's just idiotic, and trying to play him in Hero League is going to be a massive pain now. As soon as everyone figures out that he's good.
Yeah, that's pretty much Zex's week. It's just Chen, and more Chen. Yeah. Balrog fan, how about you?
It's been pretty good so far. Just haven't got a chance. I was waiting for it to go live, and then when it went live today, I didn't make time to play because I am obsessed with a bunch of games all at once, and it's never a good thing to be able to focus. But I am excited to play more. I think me and Zex are going to do placement matches very soon, and kind of hit the new changes in Hero League and see how they work for us.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a lot more changes than we anticipated from the PTR, which we'll be going over in just a little bit here. Carl, how was your week in Heroes? I know you once again got to play with some more famous Heroes players.
Yeah, tonight I got to I got to play in a game with Stray and Hosty. Lost that game. And went from matching up with like people in like Diamond 1 and Masters to you lost with Stray and your team, you must be awful. So I was in Diamond 5. I mean, not in Diamond 5,
but that's where you're matching up, yeah.
Yeah. And then I lost the next two matches, so this should be great.
Well, the climb will begin anew. I started my placement matches last night and I did get to stream those, so if you didn't get a chance to check that out, you can check it out on my Twitch channel. I went 2-2, so I guess it's a wash, really. Had a really rough first game with a Murden that just was a keyboard warrior, all caps, 100% of the game. I just muted him halfway through. But the last two games I won on Zool on Tomb of the Spider Queen and playing Jaina on Braxis Holdout. So yeah, it was a good session for me, and I actually got to play one game with Zarya before we went live tonight. So I'm actually much more excited for her release now that I've had a chance to play her, and she's really fun. So I'm excited to see how that is going to turn out, because she's not the typical warrior that people are used to when Blizzard gives that warrior designation to a new hero. But let's go ahead and start talking about some of this new stuff, because the Zarya patch did launch today. Launches with Zarya, Warhead Junction, the new battleground for the Machines of War event, and a ton of hero changes. The aforementioned Chen changes that Zex mentioned. If you want to hear all about those, Zex really in depth last week's episode on there, so make sure to check that out. But initial thoughts on Zarya now that she's live. I know we touched on this a little bit last week. I just want to say she's really fun to play, and she's definitely not the typical warrior, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts, Charlie.
I think she's going to end up filling in a spot that Tassadar can't really... I mean, Tassadar can, but I think she's going to end up filling in the spot that Tassadar provided and doing it a little bit better just because of her tankiness. She's got a little bit of range poke, and her shield production and her ultimate are just better options than what Tassadar can offer in a lot of maps. Force Wall is very good, but I think in Zarya's case, the potential for winning an entire team fight off of a well-placed ult is it's going to happen more often than those amazing wall moments you see. Because for every one good wall moment, there's about 20 walls that really don't do near as much during that game. So I do believe that she's going to be relevant, but I don't think it's going to be shown in her win rate.
Carl, I wanted to hear your thoughts. I know we talked a bit about this in the Facebook group today, but yeah.
Yeah, so like last week, I don't have live experience. I've just playing Hero League, and most people haven't leveled her up to 5 enough to play her in Hero League, and are still kind of wary. But just in general, I think, like Charlie said, she fills the same role as Tassadar or maybe Medivh. So when you're drafting her in Hero League or whatever, don't draft as your sole warrior and be like, she's going to be a great front line, she's going to soak all this damage, she's going to be just like ETC, just as good as Muradin, right? Draft her like whenever you draft a Tassadar, except for doesn't help with stealth.
Yeah, for sure. The shields are on a pretty long cooldown, 12 seconds apiece. There's the personal barrier and the shield ally that you can place on a ally, obviously. And it was one game, so I can't really base too much off of it, but I really thought she seemed better than my initial impression on her on the PTR playing against her. So I'll be interested to see how she fits in this meta, but like Zex was saying, Chen is going to be a monster, I feel like, in this meta with this patch. Zex, how do you feel Zarya fits into this meta at all? Or does she have a place, or does it have to be in Double Warrior?
I kind of disagree with Carl and Charlie. Aside from a few weird plays you can make with her, there was a Zarya when I was playing earlier today who was noticing I was soaking tower shots by just running up to a single tower and then chugging. So as soon as I'd run up there, she'd throw her shield on me and get that bonus damage, and then she'd help, and then she'd start attacking the tower, which ended up leading to her leading in siege damage for a while. But I disagree that she's gonna replace Tassadar. She doesn't have she's a tank, but she has no escape. Where Tassadar does has several escapes in Force Wall, in Phase Shift, the talent you can take where you get prescience, whatever it's pronounced. My pronunciation is bad.
Prescience.
But prescience, thank you. He's got that, and there's extra benefits in picking Tassadar as opposed to Zarya. If she had some way to make her escape easier that didn't involve burning an ultimate, I would probably be fully on board. But as she stands right now, she needs a little bit more, in my opinion, in order to make her completely viable.
Don't you feel like people are playing her a bit suboptimally because they're trying to play her like a typical warrior? I mean, her escapes shouldn't be as big of an issue if your positioning is well. If you're playing, you don't really have to be up front and bruising with her.
No, and that's true, but even still, she is. I don't think everything that Tassadar does, she does better. I just don't see that. I had a thought and it just went out of my head. Like, there was another point I was gonna make about her, but like, I just don't see her fitting in. I mean, she's not a bad hero. There are things she does, and she does well, but not well enough to pick her over Tassadar, or even like other tanks, say Johanna, people like that. So if she gets buffs in the near future, either like a damage increase to her grenade, maybe, that might make me revise my opinion, because I wouldn't mind seeing her as more like a half hammer, like a hammer with half the range. Just that tank who can protect the people in the front and still effectively siege from the back. I feel like that's what Blizzard was trying to go with, and when they were designing Zarya's kit, and like they're almost there. So,
yeah, I almost feel though they were a little bit pigeonholed because of their design philosophy of, if they're going to bring these heroes over from other games. Well, I mean, obviously they're all from other games, but wanting to kind of make her toolkit 1-to-1 with how she plays in Overwatch, I think, is a big challenge, and it feels a little bit like she does a lot of things that other heroes do, but not quite as well, or maybe as well, but just the rest of her toolkit isn't enough to necessarily prioritize drafting her. But I mean, it's very early on. Obviously, she was just released today on live, so there's a lot more remaining to be seen, and I'm sure as the weeks go on, we'll continue talking about Zarya and any future heroes that are coming out, of course. But I did want to touch on the rest of this PTR patch, because the live patch, because the PTR patch had some changes, but there are additional changes that Blizzard did release for live today. Brax's Holdout got a lot of tuning here, and I know we kind of touched on this as well, about how snowballing the map has been. All Zerg units, though, now from the holding pens have been reduced. Their damage, the early game damage, was significantly reduced, mid game slightly reduced, and late game moderately increased. So that'll be interesting to see. Banelings got, across the board, all the units got their damage reduced by at least 17%. The developer comments were, we've noticed a few more one-side games than we'd like on Braxis, and the Battleground plays faster by design, which was intentional, but they're making a few changes to try to reduce the early game effectiveness of the Zerg pens, and they're hoping the balance will be closer to what they wanted when they first released this. And I have to say, the one game I played on it yesterday, we got 100-0 Zerg holding pens, and we just steamrolled them like it was no problem. So I think these are good, healthy changes. Charlie, what do you think of the changes to Braxis Holdout?
I'm guessing these changes will retain what the feeling of Braxis Holdout should be, whereas if you win these camps, there should be a lot of reward for that. But it's going to be one of those things now moving forward where you don't have such snowbally games where it's decided after one or two caps, which will be it's better for a map that way. I think it's still going to play as a very fast map, very very push heavy, but yeah, there's these are good changes for the map. I think it's going to allow the better team to win more often.
Yeah. Zex, how about you?
I ended up playing a game today on Braxis after the patch hit, and the 100-strong Zerg wave is a lot more manageable now. It wasn't this crushing wave of death coming at you. It was much more easier to take care of. You weren't as safe hiding in the swarm as you were before. So I'm happy with the changes. It was needed. The amount of push you got out of one full wave was just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Carl, how about you? Have you gotten a chance to play this in Hero League at all, or?
Hasn't popped up.
Okay, so them's the break sometimes. Also, with the new Battleground coming out, the pool is changed for, I forget how long. October 17th, so that's the end of the Machines of War event. They also changed the little gathering event that it used to only count the gems or whatever they're called that you got. Now it counts every single person on the team. So as long as you get the event done, you're going to get 12 of those counted towards unlocking that portrait. But moving on, we had a couple changes to heroes who didn't get touched on the PTR, but they are going live with some changes. Alarak receiving significant damage increases across the board. Counter-Strike as well getting unstoppable now for Alarak. So Alarak might be a bit more of a viable option going forward. We'll have to see. And Carl, what do you think from a melee assassin point? Is this going to be enough to help him?
I mean, I don't know. I know we saw a couple pics of him from pro players in like Bloodlust and stuff. I don't know how serious they were. But I don't know. These are pretty good buffs, right? They reduce a lot of mana cost. They buff damage, width, and Unstoppable's big for his ult. So I don't know. I think it definitely could.
Yeah, I think the Unstoppable on the
that's
the
probably one of the most significant changes.
The big change here. Have either of you guys played with Alarak at all? What do you think of these changes going forward?
I haven't played as them, but
go ahead.
I just I have a policy to wait with new heroes until stuff like this starts happening. The one thing that's telling in the developer's note is that they were worried about how powerful Counter-Strike was, and they realized how many different options the opponent had to mitigate Counter-Strike. Whether it was, they bring up 3 examples as basically a whiffed Counter-Strike, crowd control them out, or they can dodge the returning skill shot. That's too much based off of something that is meant to be as counterplay. So that's where the Unstoppable comes in, and it's going to help that. And I'm interested to see how effective he is now, because not being able to stun him out of that, and then it all being on the player to focus on when Alarak pops that Counter-Strike, it's going to be important on how well he performs. I don't think this will help him very much at the pro level, because pro level people are very observant and highly reactive to situations like that. So unless it's like a close range twitch reaction on a Counter-Strike from the Alaric player, you're not going to see him impacting the game in big ways with it. But on the casual level, I think there can definitely be some significant jumps in his play and his win rate.
Really?
Chen don't care about Alarak. Chen jump on Alarak.
There you have it. And
it's annoying when you get silenced out of a chug, but he also he's still squished, which is just food for Chen for the most part. But he does do, I noticed, a lot more damage than what he was, and that is really, really good to control a lot of tanks and stuff like that. And telekinesis is still really annoying to deal with because it just puts everybody out of position and sets up the Discord strike and everything else. And he might start getting some love in the competitive after this. But yeah, like I said, just jump on high mobility characters won't have much of a problem.
I'm just excited to see Counter-Strike potentially be a bit more viable. I mean, that Unstoppable adds so much help to being able to use that ability and being able to get it to go off. But other heroes getting touched as well. We're getting 2 mages touched here. Chromie receiving some health buffs and range buffs across the board on the QW and the temporal loop. So potentially a bit scarier for her. She's able to play a bit safer and has a bit more of a health pool. Her health pool has always been really low, and that's kind of counteract the amount of burst damage that she can come out with. I want to go to Carl first, just because I know you play a lot of ranged DPS. Does this really help Chromie in the long run?
Yeah, I mean, this Chromie's biggest weakness, right, is her health. Is if you get onto Chromie, she dies. And here's, what, a 60 damage buffer, which is not huge, but sometimes it can be the difference, right? If you have that extra half a second, the Ancestral can get off, or even just the Chain Heal, or Uther's Q, or maybe it's just, they can stun the Zeratul, and you finish them off. It's, the game, there are a lot of times where team fights are just games of inches, and anytime you give a character with as high of damage as Chromie extra survivability, it matters. So, I don't know. I think she has like this dedicated player base who's terrifying with her, and they're going to be even more terrifying now. I don't know if anybody will pick her up.
Yeah, most definitely. Zex, your thoughts really quickly. I know you're not the hugest fan of this hero, but
she's still a bad hero. I still don't like her.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, we're done. Charlie, how about you? What do you think of the Chromie changes?
I think the biggest change is that basically reaching through time is being rolled into baseline for all of her abilities somewhat. So what that's going to do is it's going to free up the 13 talent pick if these range buffs are very impactful, or impactful enough for a Chromie player to play at the aggressive long range capacity she always had. So if she has the option to now take time out while still doing the kind of damage she does and having the range she has, it's going to help with her survivability overall, because that's, it's a 7-second ice block basically that you can end whenever you want. 7 seconds is a long time if you can trick somebody into committing too far to try and get the kill for her. I'm looking at you, Butcher. So I think that is probably the most impactful change, and look to see some Chromie players now taking advantage of that, and you're going to have to adjust to the way you approach Chromie as a hero fighting against her, if timeout becomes the talent pick of choice at 12/13.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these changes pan out, and in the hands of those players who have kind of, like Carl was saying, have been very dedicated at playing Chromie. They're just going to benefit from these. But I was talking about two different mages to get changes. Gul'dan as well getting changes on live here. Life tap damage is being reduced. Fell Flame is Q. The size is being increased. Drain life. Healing is increasing. Corruption. Cooldown is reducing, as well as the mana cost. And Echoed Corruption, the level 1 talent for Corruption, is going to be have its requirements reduced from 35 to 40. Heroes hit, or increase, sorry, 35 to 40, and Health Funnel at level 4, its cooldown is getting changed as well. I don't know. We'll have to see on these. I honestly do not have enough knowledge about Gul'dan to really know if this is going to be enough to really help him out and bring him up in the meta, to challenge that spot of Li Ming and Janet kind of right now. Which of you guys have played Gul'dan? Because I haven't yet, and I'm curious what you guys think.
I've played him some. I don't think he's supposed to fit the spot of Chromie, or not Chromie, I mean her, and Li Ming and Jaina. He's a mage, but true to a warlock, he's a damage over time. He's a sustained damage dealer. I think Corruption is nice. The first thing I said on the show when I played Gul'dan was, I need his Corruption cooldown to be lower. Because it feels like forever, and 14 seconds is still a long time, but it's better. I mean, it's a strict
over the course of the game. I mean, that adds up. That's 2 seconds that add up every time you use that. So
that can something. Be an extra corruption in a team fight, or in a couple team fights.
Yeah, especially on something like Cursed Hollow, where a lot of times you have these extended team fights over the tributes there.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it'll be good for him. Okay, so I want to say it'll buff him up to what I think of as Volunteer, but Vol's now pretty good. But you can pick him. I don't think he's going to be like, everyone needs Gul'dan. But I don't think anybody's going to be like, oh no, you picked Gul'dan.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's what a lot of these changes are, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like these heroes that just kind of nobody wants you to pick. It's like, let's give them a little bit of love. It's not, then gain 100 damage on each ability. Got some love.
So to move this along a little quicker, I'm going to move on. Furnace Blast on Butcher getting the cooldown reduced from 80 to 60, so just trying to encourage more players to touch that heroic.
Why? Why?
I don't know.
That's a ridiculous amount of time off that cooldown. It does a lot of damage.
There's no developer notes here, so I don't know what their reasoning is.
Blizzard, why?
They just like Butcher.
Yeah, I guess so. But I really wanted to hear Charlie's thoughts on this Tychus change. Commander Odin is getting new functionality. Now grants Tychus restraint for the duration of Commander Odin, reducing damage taken by 25%.
Yeah, the resistance being applied to whenever that ultimate is active is pretty big, because as far as ultimates go, that ultimate lasts longer than I think any other ultimate in the game. Like, as far as duration of its effects.
Maybe not Garg.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, Gargantuan is pretty much always there. But it's yeah, technically. Okay, yeah. There are some, but as far as like a damaging ult where you're in control of the damage, and it's a pretty big buff because he becomes a giant body that's prone to a lot of targeting. So it's hard for me to get too excited about this change just because laser is in such a good spot that it's still going to feel weird if you have to take Odin. I always like taking Odin on Tomb of the Spider Queen or any map where a push is a little lacking. So this might allow him to kind of get aggressive in the push in certain lanes where he might have died trying to eke out a push. Now he might survive, whether it be trying to get that one last tower or that one last fort hit or whatever. So it definitely helps. It makes it more appealing of a pick.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it will be to overtake the laser.
Is this during the channel too?
It says for the duration of Commandeer Odin, so I don't think so, because it's not. The duration doesn't start until the channel's over.
That would be a really big deal if it applied during the channel.
Yeah, if it was during the channel as well, I'd be kind of jumping out of my seat right now a little bit more. But I mean, from the way the patch is worded, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Hero League play is kind of sketchy, but I think I saw a fairly recent game where I think it was Faye on Odin, and they would just wait for, like a Maw would go down, and then use Odin while there are like 3 people in there not doing anything, and then they'd all come out and just get annihilated by his AoE stuff, which was pretty good to watch. And this is just like, all right, well, we took that talent at what was it, level 1, whenever you get resistant whenever you use E, whatever. You took that away. Yeah, they took it away. And it's like, oh man, that sucks. That kind of wrecks them. It's like, okay, we'll give it back. It's just the entirety of Odin.
Yeah,
have fun.
You only get it during your ult now.
Yeah. I
mean, that's okay though. That's like one of the things I feel like I saw him struggling with is when he was in Odin, he would just kind of get deleted pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it used to, very long ago, it was a second health bar.
Oh yeah,
he was like the tankiest damage dealer. Because of that.
Yes, those days so much.
Now he's still tanky when he gets Odin.
Charlie weeps.
Yeah, those were good times, boy.
This was a long time ago.
But yeah, I do think it helps. It definitely softens the blow off of losing the resistance on run and gun. Overall, though, the resistance on run and gun was better, and people were taking the laser back then anyway. So it's still overall a slight nerf from where he was, but he's in this kind of special place where he can do a lot of work on certain team comps or countering other team comps or certain maps he's very strong on. So it's always going to be that guy who's played a lot of Tychus who comes out of the woodwork and just makes your team he's a complete like all-star for your team or a complete nightmare to fight against. And I think that's still going to be his spot.
No, I think it's good. I think he's going to be in a more interesting place with this change. And speaking of interesting places, Vala got a whole bunch of changes for this live patch that were not on PTR, And one of my favorite reactions was Crowan on Twitter, and he basically said, "What is Blizzard thinking? Are they crazy?" Because damage bonus per stack of hatred increased 1%. Base damage on Hungry Arrow increased. Bounce damage increased on that. Cooldown for Rain of Vengeance decreased. Monster Hunter, the mana refund on Hungry Arrow increased, as well as the Minion and Mercenary bonus damage. Puncturing Arrow at 4. Quest reward bonus damage increased as well, and Death Dealer at 7 for Vault. Bonus damage increase as well. I know a lot.
Change means everyone listening.
Yeah.
Pick Vala.
Yeah, pretty much. In your Hero League games this week, pick Vala. But yeah, I know the pros were really, really positive about the changes she received in the last patch, and this is just even more damage for her.
Yep.
I'm scared to see how Vala plays now. That's my thoughts on it.
I'm excited. I like Vala.
Yeah, no, Vala is definitely fun. Zex or Charlie, you guys have any thoughts on the Vala changes? Were they needed?
I don't. It's hard for me to speak on that personally, just because I've always been the worst Vala in the world. So, pretty much since I started playing this game, she was one of those heroes who was always like in the talks of being good, or when she fell from grace after the nerfs and the changes, and now she's back. I couldn't give you a valid assessment just because I'm so bad with her.
Yeah, I've got nothing. Vala is not a commonly played hero of mine. I've touched on her, and all these changes look really good. And she's probably gonna see, just looking over them, she's gonna see more love in competitive and Hero League and things like that. She's definitely gonna get picked more. But we have a glut of assassins in the game right now that are completely viable on some way, shape, or form. So, like, this just kind of pushes Vala towards the front of that pack.
Yeah,
not at the front, but she's close to it.
Yeah, for sure. Lily is getting changes as well, all focused on her level 16 talent, Shake It Off. No longer has a cooldown. Resistance amount increased from 25 to 50%, and duration increased from 3 to 4%. So a lot more survivability for her late game now, which is really cool to see. That'll be good for her. I want to get through these quick, though. Anubarak also getting some changes as well. How many times has this guy been touched? I swear, like, so many times now. His health is getting increased, like almost 200 base health increase, and obviously the health regen increase to account for that bigger health pool. Is this kind of what he needs again to return to the meta? Because I know there was a little bit of time he was there, and what they did to kind of shift him out of that meta was they reduced his health.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how you reduce a tank's effectiveness, is you cut their health and her health regen, and this kind of brings him back to the forefront. His kit was good. His problem was you just spray a can of raid on him and he dies. Like, you didn't even have to use any skills on him. You just... and he was gone. So this kind of brings him back to where he needs to be considered viable again. So it's nice to see these changes for a tank that I enjoyed playing a great deal.
All right, so really quickly, there were 2 Chen changes, and I want to get your thoughts on Zex, since you're the Chen expert. Level 7, Ring of Fire, the duration reduced from 5 to 3 seconds.
Nobody cares. Nobody's taking that anyways.
That's what I thought.
Like, it's a stupid change. Why would you reduce that for that? I don't like it. Even though nobody's going to pick it because it's on the same tier as Brew Balance, like, it's still a bad change. Like, Ring of Fire needs... It's rewarded... Chen is rewarded by being active in his skill usage. Okay? And when you... And the only way I would even remotely consider taking Ring of Fire is if it lasted the entire duration of the cooldown. Which means you would have to constantly juggle your skills in order to reap the benefits of that particular talent. But now it's like, no, there's no way I'm taking this at any point. So, and the next one you're about to mention, it's 16, another round. That's not that. That's been in. Like it's been in since McIntyre made his video. Another round increases the radius of cake smash by 50%. The instant I realized that, it was another round at 16 the whole way. Like flying leap is old Boulder flavor now. Like I would take Boulder flavor at 16 if I was going against a no stun comp. But now it's do I have enough damage behind me that I can take flying leap? Because another round is just way too good. You can stack a double flame breath with somebody, and you pair that with the level 1 talent accumulating flame, and it's a ridiculous amount of damage Chen's putting out post 16. That's what I was talking about last week. It's terrifying to say the least. And the cake smash radius, it's gigantic at that point. Like if you miss a cake smash, feel bad about your life. That's why I don't like the increased radius on cake smash is why I don't like taking cake toss. Like the size of the radius of cake smash at 16 at that point is so big, cake toss is rendered irrelevant. So, my thoughts.
No, good thoughts. I'm excited to see this new Chen on live and hopefully play some games together with it. But that's the majority of the new stuff in the live patch. Obviously, we talked about the PTR extensively last week, so if you want to hear our thoughts on all the big reworks, Chen, Zebo, Vala, etc., you can go ahead and listen to that last episode. But now we're going to move on to a little bit of esports news. I know just a few short months ago, like maybe even just as early as a month ago, we were worried, what in the world are we going to be doing for this dead time between fall regionals ending and BlizzCon starting? Well, Blizzard announced the the Nexus games for North America and EU. The qualifiers for the North American Nexus games were this past weekend, and we got to see Level Up Astral Authority, who's going to be replaced, obviously, Imported Support, and Vox Nihili get to... Or Gale Force was the other one that qualified. Astral qualified because of their top 4 finish at PAX. But we'll get into the news of them disbanding in just a minute.
There hasn't been an announced replacement yet?
That I know of.
Well, did the roster disband?
No, they got dropped.
They got dropped.
The org
so
dropped the roster.
Yeah, so they could, as a team,
under a
continue
name.
on, I'm sure. Yeah.
But they would have... Is it a event tournament or is it online, I guess?
It's online.
Oh, okay, so they could make it.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, they don't need Astral to fly them anywhere.
So that would be the question. Are they dropped because they don't have the Astral Authority name, or does the team get to rename and play because they qualify?
I would think
Blizzard
the team would get
typically qualifies based on the players.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is up to the team. Like, are they going to stay together now that they don't have an org behind them?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't. They haven't really announced anything, so we can assume they will. But
until I hear otherwise, I think it's safe to assume that. But we have Murloc Geniuses up against Level Up in the first round. Gale Force against Astral, or whatever they're going to call themselves. Niventic against Imported Support, and then Vox Nihili against Denial. So those are some really good matchups, and I would expect an upset or two in there, but I think also the powerhouses are definitely going to move on. Murloc will definitely beat Level Up, I'm sure. Niventic will beat Imported Support, and I don't know, that last one, Denial versus Vox, is going to be a close one, I believe.
It could be interesting. Yeah, with Denial being weird at Bloodlust and...
Yeah.
Vox
is
a good team.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is we'll see during Nexus games what kind of shape Denial is in. Can they bounce back from that the quote-unquote drama of the Bloodlust tournament and really make a good showing here? Because, I mean, it's not just pride on the line, though. First place is $5,000, which is pretty good for an online-only tournament.
Yeah. I think this is also going to be telling, really, in the Gale Force Astral,
Mm-hmm.
because Astral was already the underdog going into that. But if they respond and somehow topple Gale Force in that matchup, I think
Yeah.
Astral Authority is going to be kind of like upset that they dropped that team. If they take this as a rallying cry and really glue together, it's all going to be highly dependent on how the members of the formal Astral Authority team react to the drop. Because if this becomes a rallying cry for them and they start, because there's a lot of talented players on that team.
Well, and the thing is, if they do well at this tournament and they turn this into something where they qualify for HGC next season, where Blizzard is going to be guaranteeing contracts for these teams.
And the 76ers might buy them too.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about this Astral Authority story. It was kind of out of the blue, really. I didn't really anticipate this happening to Astral. I felt they were top 4 at PAX, and that's really good. And they were hanging with the big boys at regionals, but they decided to release their current roster, which kind of, the wording of that makes me think that they're going to go and try to pick up another Heroes roster, because the one other thing is they mentioned, like, we dropped them basically because player contracts were about to end and they wanted to do something new. So I mean, although this is also after months of drama with Equinox, as he refused to play that 1 month or so and then rejoin the team or whatever. But the team, the final roster that did get released here was Equinox Battery, Talking Trees, Frozen X, and Dark Chimera. So that's a very good team that you can build a brand around, I feel like.
Yeah, they're solid players, so there's no question there. I think it's I think this is probably following that announcement from Astral Authority. It really kind of livens up this tournament coming up. So the two events are directly affected by one another, and it's going to be pretty cool to see.
Mm.
It was already a competitive tournament, but add in this kind of layer of drama without any real answers. It's going to be must-watch esports.
Yeah, for sure. And these are all going to be going on every weekend until basically right before BlizzCon. And we did have EU. They are a bit deeper into their tournament here. They had their first round of the winners, the upper bracket and the lower bracket. And only one game wasn't one series wasn't a 3-0. So Dig moved on 2Bs, moved on Misfits and Fnatic. Vodka Paradise and Team Liquid, who we're going to be talking about Team Liquid in just a minute as well, because there's some news there, did get knocked out of the tournament. So Dig and Fnatic looking good.
Vodka Paradise, I believe, is the old Navi roster. And they, I forgot how the format for EU is, but they were down. I think it's a best of 5 or something like that.
Yeah, the playoffs are a best of 5 as they will be for North America this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, they were down. Vodka Paradise was down 2-0, I think, against Fnatic. I think. And they responded with drafting 4 tanks. And they almost won.
Yeah.
They were ahead most of they got the first keep on Sky Temple. I was like, this can't they're done. They're just throwing in the towel. No, they had a legitimate plan behind that draft. They thought that draft through. That's something they've tried. That wasn't we're done, we're out. You know, no, that was, we've thought this one out. But like, they had Rexar, Dahaka, a couple others. I gotta look that game up, but it was just it was ridiculous. Like, they still lost, but they shouldn't have been in the lead for as long as they had with a 4-tank strat.
Yeah, for sure. But I think the big news just for esports in general just came out this morning is people from 76ers bought Dignitas and then Apex as well. So those are two big names in League of Legends, as well as kind of just esports in general. And then investors, this is this morning's news, investors from the Warriors and Wizards bought Team Liquid. So lots of big names starting to get involved in esports. I think that the focus is obviously on League of Legends. It's kind of the easiest transition for a lot of these mainstream sports people to kind of transition to or add to their roster because of the strict weekly schedule, the league system that's in. But I think this will enable them to put a lot of money into esports, and that should bring even better talent to all of these systems. So I'm really excited for this. More money in esports is always a good thing, I feel like. And I'm not too worried at this point. I've always had it kind of in the back of my mind. I was worried about another 2008 bubble bursting, but I think esports is here to stay and in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, It was pretty interesting when you saw. I forgot what the old team was before Rick Fox bought it up and turned it into
Echo Fox.
Echo Fox, yeah. I don't remember what the old team was before.
It was a new one. It was pretty small.
Okay, but
if I remember right.
And then I don't remember what team Shaquille O'Neal's invested in.
Envy, yeah, Envy is.
Okay. So there's that. I kind of knew we'd get to this point with the prize pools getting bigger and bigger in esports. It was just a matter of time before traditional sports, and especially people with money who are involved in those sports, were like, hey, this new generation is really paying attention to this. You know, how they may know some of us from, the NBA, NFL, whatever, we can draw more attention to this brand from people on both sides if we jump in and take a risk.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget Mark Cuban at that league event.
It was Intel Extreme Masters.
Yeah, didn't he get fined like $1 million?
It was something. It was something silly like that.
It was like, I think it was a joke.
No, he was totally in on the joke.
Yeah,
because he donated the money to charity, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was exactly it, which I thought was really cool. Swear all you want. If you're giving a bunch of money to charity at an event like that, man, go nuts. So I knew we'd get to this point. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it for right now.
I think it's one of those things too now where like a lot of the stuff we touch on, not all of it, but there is a lot of it where you can actually find a lot of these news stories on ESPN.com now.
Yeah.
They have really been on a hiring spree. I mean, I've known a lot of people who have been kind of either they were kind of writing for stuff like StarCraft or whatever, and then they just got picked up by ESPN. But there's a ton of really solid writers that are writing for ESPN, and the articles, I mean, because of the structure of ESPN, kind of the quality they adhere to and aspire to, these are the esports articles that kind of we've been waiting for, quite honestly, and they're super polished and really great. I will say I think their hero stuff is a little weak, and they need someone who's a little bit more knowledgeable on those. But other than that,
Jimmy, stop trying to get a job at ESPN on there.
Yeah. At least let me get my application in or something.
Yeah, you first. But yeah, Charlie, I kind of cut you off there. You were talking about...
No, just in general, I think it's one of those things where people are going to know. I mean, that's why suddenly you have NBA teams investing in these various avenues, because there's money to be made. People are watching these things. There are numbers there, and I don't know the numbers offhand, but I got to assume the Twitch numbers for big events are better than the random poker being shown at 12 o'clock at night on ESPN2 or something. But I believe that it's just one of those things where it's like there's a piece of the pie we're missing out on as a sports network. And then the people involved in that sports networks, Wizards and Warriors, Shaq, the 76ers,
Magic Johnson.
Magic Johnson, they're all saying this is something that is important to the younger generations, and they're watching it. So let's get involved. Let's make some money off of it. Let's provide some support, which is just it's wonderful.
And and I think the other big thing we really haven't mentioned on this show because it's not hero specific, but TBS has really kind of gone all in on E-League right now. They finished their first season of CSGO, and they apparently were very happy with the numbers they were getting in kind of an odd, or what's considered in TV, the bad time slot, Friday night, where people are supposed to be out doing stuff, but put a esports competition on, people are going to watch it. And they had
esports people don't go out on Friday night.
And
True.
They actually had a really
We're not
great
at the club. We're leveling up.
They actually had a really great cross promotion with Buffalo Wild Wings, so you could actually go there to watch it. And I have to say, now that they have their Overwatch League underway, I want to make sure to see that on TBS when that comes out. And to show how much TBS believes in this, they've already season 2 of CSGO is underway. Obviously, Overwatch is just about to wrap up in their first season, so I mean they are really investing in the production quality of that is really good and honestly rivals what Riot has been doing. And they were basically able to instantly have this amazing production. They didn't really come out of the gate kind of stumbling or whatever because they're a broadcast network. This is what they do.
Yeah.
And
oh, go ahead, Carl.
I was just saying, I just realized that like a couple weeks ago, Riot released their like plan for next year, and it basically involves a lot more of sponsors and teams and players getting money than before. And then a couple weeks later, it's like, hey, we got investors.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a savvy move. Friday is the perfect night for this. It's weak as far as what you're going to go up against, ratings wise. So, and as we said, people who enjoy watching games and playing video games, they're less likely to be out. And that's not an indictment of people who enjoy these games and like doing these things. It's just kind of natural. You're not looking to make it to Friday to go out and do a bunch of stuff if you're a hardcore gamer. Your happy Friday is here because you can stay up till 2 in the morning and not feel the repercussions at work on Saturday. Like there are a lot of people like that. So to add that kind of dynamic where I don't want to overstate it, but you have like your sports league that's on. It's what what you expect. Like I said, I don't want to overstate it, but Sundays are for football. If you're going to do something with esports, Friday night is the perfect spot.
I think it's definitely a good spot. But I think we're going to leave that there. But this focus segment that you put up, Charlie, I really actually like this, and I'm curious what our chat thinks about this, because this is a really interesting discussion going forward, I think, with how Heroes of the Storm is going.
Okay, well, I've been wondering for a while now, and the more and more it comes to being a sort of issue every time, I have to wonder. Every time a new hero is released, it almost never goes smoothly. Alaria is probably the Ariel, I'm sorry, is probably the closest to being the smoothest release in a while. But most of these heroes have such massive fluxes between patches and changes, whether it be their win rates being way too high and way too low. Is there any point to purchasing a hero the first week they come out? I'm getting to the point where I don't want to. I mean, as far as like the 15,000 gold goes, I'll never spend that on a new hero ever. I mean, I understand, and this is from like just a play style standpoint. If someone comes out that you're just an absolute fanboy or girl for, yeah, spend the 15,000 gold because someone that you've been using in Warcraft for, or loved in Warcraft for 10 plus years now, is out on Heroes of the Storm and you want to play them. If somebody who said I've loved Gul'dan since he was first in Warcraft, so I bought him day one, I'd get that. But from a player standpoint, it just seems like you're throwing away 5,000 gold anymore. At least wait 2 weeks for the hero to stabilize a little bit. Right now, we have, and this is Haslogs, blah blah blah. Don't trust Haslogs completely, but it's generally a fairly accurate.
It's an idea of what's going on in the meta.
Yeah, it's not 100%, but it's generally a good snapshot of what's probably true. Bottom 5 win rate percentages, 4 of them are newer hero releases between Gul'dan, Alaric, Medivh, and Chromie. Those are all like heroes that have been released in the most recent cycles. So the fact that they haven't found that balance to push them up a bit, and they're still working on it. Obviously, Gul'dan, Alaric, and Chromie all got touches for the positive in this patch. But if you spent $15,000 on Alaric just because you were curious, or 15,000 gold, it's kind of sorry. It would be kind of a silly notion at this point because he's still kind of sitting there at the bottom, unless you're really enjoying him. I feel like a better use of your time on a new hero release week, and it's relevant because here's Zarya. Focus on how you interact with that hero, whether it be playing with her or playing against her. Figure out, with the heroes you really enjoy playing. For me, it's Diablo. How much does Zarya help Diablo? How easily am I able to exploit her weaknesses? And then you can kind of adjust that per change that happens throughout the weeks regarding new hero buffs or decreases. Obviously, I think there have been a few occasions where a hero like Li Ming hit, and it was like, all right, everybody learn Li Ming, because if you get a chance to pick her first pick, you kind of got to take her. There were a couple weeks where if you didn't know how to play Li Ming and you were first pick, you were kind of a detriment to your team if she wasn't banned out. But those circumstances are very rare, and often heroes that are new come in underperforming and struggling to find a way to adjust to the meta that's already been established. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I'm very wary of new heroes anymore, and I don't think there's a real purpose to playing them heavily.
Yeah, I think we're getting to the point where we have enough of a hero pool that being really proactive about getting the newest hero isn't as indicative of or as important as it needed to be in the past. So it's really interesting to see. I know myself, the last hero I bought with gold was a Gul'dan. That was the only reason I bought him, was because I wanted to own every hero, and he was the only one I didn't own. So I bought him for 10,000 gold, and I literally have not played him at all. So I feel bad about that. Feels bad. But speaking of gold, I not to go off your point too much, but this is about spending gold on heroes. We did see Muradin's cost increase with this patch, as well as Diablo's decrease. So what do you think of Blizzard kind of doing that as well, kind of changing the cost of heroes?
Me personally, or?
Yeah, it's an open question.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing. I think you got to adjust for the effectiveness. I don't know that's a very a fair trade-off. I think if you had increased the cost of Muradin and decreased the cost of Lost Vikings or someone who takes a lot of dedication to learn, Muradin and Diablo is kind of an equal trade to me, because they're both effective tanks that are really strong in their role. If you had increased the cost of Muradin, saying he's a really good hero, you should have to pay a little extra for him, and decrease the cost in, say, Abathur or whatever, that's something I'd be more looking for.
Carl, I wanted to hear what your thoughts. You're kind of on the higher end of the MMR spectrum than us. Do you see these newer heroes kind of in the meta early on, or do you think it's important for players to save up their gold for buying these new heroes as they come out?
I don't think so. I think basically it takes the 2 weeks before the price drops for people to kind of figure out how they work, and you see, okay, Zarya's out, and she's a terrible solo tank, and she's really good with these heroes. She just really does nothing against these heroes. I can draft triple ranged against her because she won't threaten my back line or whatever. And after 2 weeks, you can buy her and kind of raise her up and see. But like Charlie said, the last 5 heroes or so have just been like, well, I'm never going to play them in Hero League because of their balance. So maybe 2 months ago when we had just like Li Ming and then Zool, like yeah, part of this is just determined by Blizzard, but it usually takes a long time before I start seeing new heroes. And I think right now, like you said, with all the new heroes we have, it's pretty open, right? A year ago, I could tell what people are going to draft because like, all right, here's just the tier, right? If KT's up, they're going to pick him. Next is Jaina, and after that we might get a Rhaegar and an Uther, and tank's either going to be Muradin or Johanna, and just like you just go through this thing of like there's like 5 good DPS heroes, there's like 3 good tanks, and there's maybe 3 or 4 supports.
The only question was always like, would they take a specialist that was really strong at pushing, or might they take like a second range in Raynor?
Yeah, I mean that was it. It was like, all right, so if you don't play these 3 mages, you're useless to us. And right now it's like, all right, you can play Lunar, or you can play Jaina, or you can play Raynor, or you could play I'm blanking on all the heroes, you could play Tracer, you could play Vala, you could play Li Ming and Kael'thas, and it's just like you don't need there aren't as many holes that need to be filled, right? You've got plenty of other options.
Yeah, there definitely are a lot of options now that the roster is getting a bit more filled out. This is something Zex and I have kind of hammered the point on, especially during talking about adding additional bands and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a good, healthy roster, and that kind of makes the importance of picking up these new heroes not as imperative. But I think that is going to be it for episode 75. We will be starting up the game portion soon. So those of you watching live here on Twitch, get ready to go ahead and join channel BlizzPro in-game. As always, our patrons do have priority to these games. And if you would like to contribute to the Patreon, patreon.com/heroespowerhour. We have a couple tiers there, and we're working on some stuff in the background to add some additional options and goodies for everyone who's decided to donate. But make sure if you already are donating, we did add that $5 tier where you can go ahead and pick our heroes for our after hours games. And I'm sure a lot of you would like to see me on Tyrael and Zex on Malfurion and Charlie
Chromie.
on... Yeah, Zex on Chromie. Someone put $5. I'll put $5 to put you on Chromie. Or Charlie on Lost Vikings, etc.
Pay $5 to make me quit the Power Hour.
There we go. That's all it takes. But yeah, we have that as well. Make sure during the week you're checking out here'sthestorm.blizzpro.com. Alebeard does a really great job making sure the site is up to date with all the latest Heroes news. You got the patch notes up today. A lot of other great strategy articles, just kind of high level strategy articles just about the game in general. But yeah, make sure to check out here'sthestorm.blizzpro.com for your news, and also the BlizzPro YouTube, youtube.com/BlizzPro, where we post our shows every week, as well as the other BlizzPro podcast. Wednesdays at 6 Pacific, we have the West March workshop for Diablo 3. Thursdays at 7 Pacific is the Payload podcast for Overwatch. Sundays at 7 Pacific is Well Met for Hearthstone. And as always, join us on our Discord, discord.blizzpro.com, and come chat with us there throughout the week and throughout these games. All right, any final thoughts, Charlie?
I think it's going to be an exciting week in Heroes. As always with any new hero release, we have all these wonderful unanswered questions that we'll kind of see play out. I think the main thing that we're going to see is how competitively viable is Junction Warhead, or Warhead Junction rather. And that's going to be the thing that's really going to cement itself moving forward. It's going to be fun to learn the map and see if pros want to play it. That's anytime a new map gets adopted into the pro rotation of it's okay to play this, it always adds a whole new level of excitement to esports. And obviously for the casual player, I mean, it's a fun map. Grab your nukes, push your lanes, and let's see what happens.
I think everyone, especially StarCraft fans, love setting off nukes into the map there. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
It's amazing.
I haven't gotten to play it yet, but I'm super excited to look forward to it. Zex, how about you? Any final thoughts on our show this week?
Get ready to see a whole lot of Chen, everyone.
Prepare your butts.
That's not a joke. If you didn't know how to... I said it before the show that when people didn't know how to deal with a good Chen in the general population, they had no idea to deal with a good Chen then. If you didn't then, you really don't now. Mm-hmm. Because,
better learn quick.
Yeah, you gonna learn today. to quote a favorite player of mine from Evil Geniuses.
My gosh.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. You need to at least get used to Chen and figure out how to stop him.
Yeah, most definitely. And one closing thought from me. I am super excited to be actually attending TwitchCon. I know I've been kind of hammering this into people, but TwitchCon is this weekend, and my panel is Friday at 12:30. I'll be hosting a panel on podcasting on Twitch, so make sure to check that out. If you're going to the convention, make sure to come say hi. I'd be happy to meet you. It'd be awesome to see some friendly faces, talk some heroes, and as always, it's going to be streamed online as well, so just search for the Sandstorm Theater stream, as that will be where it will be at 12:30 p.m. Friday. I know it's the middle of workday for a lot of people, but hope you guys can catch it, and I'll be posting the VOD on my Twitter, twitter.com/EJTyrant. And I think that is going to be it for our show. Make sure if you're here on Twitch watching live, we are going to be playing our ARAMs right after this. Make sure to stay tight, and we'll see you in the Nexus.